All right, welcome to BuzzBeat. Thanks for joining us again for another episode. This is Richie, and I'll be joined by Lee today. We are going to do another film rewind episode where we take a look at one Hornets player and look at one of his better performances of the season. And on today's episode, we're going to be looking into LaMelo's game in Minnesota on February 24th, a very well-rounded game for him. Lee, before we get into this one, how's everything on your end? I haven't seen or talked to you in a while.
Yeah, it's been a minute, man. I guess summer and wedding planning have gotten the best of me, but definitely excited to kind of the whole FIBA World Cup thing. I feel like is re-energizing some basketball content. I feel like everybody was kind of at least in like the NBA media world, it was kind of a lull there for about a month. Everybody's squeezing in their vacations, and now the World Cup's back going, and you start thinking about the next season. So I'm excited to do this. I've really been enjoying from afar y'all's film session so far. So yeah, man, we're ready to rock. And I mean, everybody loves talking about LaMelo, so let's do it.
Yeah, hopefully this one draws in some viewers here. Now, when is your wedding?
September 16th. So we're bearing down.
Very good. Have you done any of the food tasting yet?
We've done the food tasting. Both bachelor and bachelorette parties are out of the way. I mean, we're pretty much in the home stretch, man. It's like it's coming hot. It'll be here in Raleigh, which will be great.
Yeah.
So
What about the cake testing?
yes, that
Okay.
was fantastic.
I got to tell you a story about that. So we were doing our cake testing way back when, and forgot there was this one flavor that I just really really loved, and it contained nuts in it, and we wanted that like as one of the layers, and we could have done another layer with a different flavor. Anyway, the wedding planner was like, or I don't know if it was the wedding planner or somebody involved with the cakes. Do you have any nut allergies in your family? And I'm like, not that I'm aware of. And then like it hit me like 10 minutes later that my brother is allergic to tree nuts. I was like, how did I forget about him of all people?
And didn't he just get married? Was it your brother?
He did just get married.
Yeah,
Yep.
there you go. Hey, love is in the air, man.
It is. It is. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get on with the clips here. And as I mentioned, we're going to look at one of the performances from LaMelo Ball against the Timberwolves on the road. And unlike the one we did with Rozier, we're actually going to have some defensive clips in this one too, which I think is pretty cool. And we're going to do our best, as always, to illustrate the plays because there is a video component, but some of you guys also just listen to the audio component. For our BuzzBeat Plus subscribers, that video was already delivered to your inbox. That YouTube version will be out on Wednesday, August 30th. So let's go ahead and get into this. LaMelo finished with 32 points on 11 of 21 shooting, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, and 2 steals. So
It's like a classic LaMelo box score.
yeah, just filling it up in every single aspect. We are going to play the clip one time through, and then we'll go ahead and talk about it after the clip is done. All right, so we've got the Hornets in the first quarter down 9-5 at this point, very early, and we do these clips in sequential order. And if you're looking on the top of your screen or the right-hand side of the court, they are trying to set up a stagger screen for Rozier in the corner. This is called motion strong. LaMelo is handling the ball kind of on the left-hand side of the court, and Conley is guarding Rozier at this point and top locking him. So we really can't use those screens that PJ and Mark Williams are doing. And the thing that I love about this play is just all the off-ball action that takes place. And so because Rozier isn't used on the screen, he goes underneath the basket. And then actually PJ just kind of comes off this screen from Mark Williams. Now, LaMelo passes PJ the ball, and he just follows him and gets that pitch right back and is able to turn the corner. And here he is turning the corner. He has Gobert right there, and he hits that floating, running floater, kind of like on a weird angle. Like he's so used to this type of shot that this just comes second nature to him. He can be fading or falling towards the baseline and still makes it. So, like, I think to a normal player, like hitting this shot is probably not one you want to see a lot, but I love his ability, Lee, to kind of use the glass here. And to be honest, when he leaves his feet this far from the basket, sometimes you kind of hold your breath, but also we know LaMelo loves these kind of weird angles and weird shots that he likes to take sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, he gets downhill here after the pitch from PJ, and the kind of like rub ball screen from Mark Williams. I mean, like you said, there's a ton of like really nice off ball action in this set, but I mean, Minnesota actually covers it all pretty well for the most part. I mean, Rozier's trying to get that back screen and then pop like he likes to do, and they just switch it. So like LaMelo makes the right call here. I mean, he calls his own number. You know, is that McDaniels guarding him up on top?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, I think who's a great on ball defender. He gets kind of blasted by PJ. He gets nicked by PJ, and then he gets nicked again by Mark Williams, which gives LaMelo just enough room to attack Gobert, who obviously is, a premier rim protector in the world, really. And yeah, like you said, it's just LaMelo doing his funky kind of off one leg, float to the side, kiss it off the glass. I mean, just kind of like just very like classic LaMelo herky jerky stuff right here, getting downhill. But yeah, I mean, really nice, just kind of fluid,
Yeah.
lot of stuff going on. Hayward's keeping things spaced here in the corner, and it's a fun set, and it's just LaMelo creating, which is what he's best at.
Yeah, it's one of those plays that, like, it almost seems like the first initial read is try to get Rozier to come off those staggers, but the Hornets do a good job of, like, just flowing in to the next action and getting things moving towards the rim. It's not Spain action, but it almost looks like Spain action with
He
the way
does.
Rozier sets that back screen right there, and as you mentioned, there's a lot of switching that is taking place, and then eventually it just ends up with a kind of a one-on-one matchup here with Gobert kind of dropping a little bit, and then you've got LaMelo hitting off this bank shot here. So this is out of all the 8 clips, this is probably the one that has the most action.
Mhm.
Some of the clips that we're going to show are not as intricate as this, but I like it. It's a good one
Oh,
to
it's a
start off
great
with.
clip. It's a great clip.
All right, we're going to go ahead and get to clip number 2 here, and again, we'll play it one time through. And this one, still early on, it's 10-11 at this point after a miss. And then you've got LaMelo driving all the way to the basket there. So we've got LaMelo. We've got LaMelo getting the board, and he's kind of met with some pressure here from Anthony Edwards. And I think Anthony Edwards, for whatever reason, applies this like token pressure in the backcourt, and he doesn't fully get down in his stance. He's kind of upright here, and to be honest, like if you're gonna guard this far from the basket, you better be doing a good job of at least turning LaMelo at least once or twice. But that doesn't happen. It just takes a quick little between the legs crossover to get by. And at this point, you're putting your team at a disadvantage, and he's able to get past him near midcourt, and everything at this point, all the pressure is on the other 4 defenders. And another one, Lee, where he leaves his feet far from the hoop. I have it paused here, kind of around the elbow, free throw line. And Gobert is about to kind of contest and block this shot, or at least try to. And to be honest, like LaMelo might take this. There's a chance that he goes up
Mhm.
to this because, like we saw in the previous clip, where he can leave his feet wherever on the court, and he's able to get Gobert to leave his, and then just kind of dish it to Mark Williams for the assist. So I do really love the way that LaMelo can not only show his ability to pass in the air. He gets a lot of hang time here and really
Mhm.
just waits to the last possible second. And he switches hands. I don't know if you caught, I mean, you probably caught that, but the way that he switches hands right before he dishes it to Mark Williams to get the better pass with his left hand.
Yeah, so, I mean, you're right, Anthony Edwards, matador defense, as one of my youth coaches would say. Um, and basically once he's past Anthony Edwards here, for those who are watching the clip, he blows by him here right around half court. It's a 4-on-3 for the Hornets. So Kyle Anderson is kinda hanging back with Hayward, who's floating on the right wing, out of the play. Gobert's trying to protect the basket. Edwards is now behind ball. So you've got Mark Williams rim running. You've got Rozier in one corner. and we've got another Hornet here in the left-hand corner that we can't see right now, but that's a downhill 4-on-3. So like you said, Richie, like LaMelo could shoot this. I think he is reacting in real time. Like, I don't think as LaMelo is gathering that, I don't think he knows what he's going to do yet. I think he's reacting to Gobert, who, like you said, jumps, contest right there, and then you get the switch hand. He could have either pitched this out to PJ, but I think he made the right play. Like Mark Williams just sitting there right under the basket. I think the LaMelo to Mark Williams dump off is a play that Hornets fans should joyfully get very used to, because Mark Williams is, I mean, leaps and bounds is the best, rim finisher around the basket that LaMelo's played with so far in his young career.
It's funny, we did I can't remember which one it was. It might have been the Nick Smith Jr. one where Spencer was talking about how he hates guards leaving their feet and
Mm,
without a plan. And I think
yep.
LaMelo doesn't necessarily have a plan, like you're saying, but his plan is let me see if I can, stay in the air as long as possible to make the best play. So do you have any thoughts on that? On like his creativity and just doing things that are kind of out of the
Unorthodox.
ordinary and leaving his feet like this?
Yeah, no, I think on net, Spencer's correct. I just think because of his length, his ability to like do these kind of elongated gather steps, and of course, like his, pretty much otherworldly vision, it's actually a advantage for LaMelo in some situations to force the defense to make a decision, and he can, in his processing speed, like he can react in real time. I think if Gobert stays on his feet and stunts, I think he goes back to that floater in this same exact situation. So a LaMelo is gathering, going up for a right-handed layup, sees Gobert actually leave his feet, and in real time reacts to the left-hand dump off. So like, yeah, I mean, LaMelo does a few things that you wouldn't necessarily teach other guards to do, but because of his size, his vision, and his processing speed, he not only gets away with them, but it's actually better that he does them.
Yeah. I mean, he's a special player. Like, not everyone can do what he does. And yeah, I would agree mostly with what Spencer is saying. Leaving your feet
Right.
without a plan is not a good thing. But with
Yeah,
Lamelo,
like Terry Rozier shouldn't be leaving his feet without a plan.
right, right, exactly. All right, clip number 3 is actually our first defensive clip of them all. And we'll go ahead and get this played one time through. Looks like it's towards the end of the first quarter. And there it is. So
Yep.
let's go ahead and talk about this one as we are watching it. This one is interesting because he actually starts off on Naz Reid. Like he's somehow matched up against Naz Reid, and Naz Reid is going to set a stagger screen. I can't see. I think maybe Nikhil Alexander Walker, I think, is coming out of the corner. Anyway, it's funny because LaMelo right here, Lee, he just has his back turned towards the ball. It's almost
Yep.
like, okay, I know what's coming, and I am willing to switch this because I want to make the matchups more even.
Correct.
Whoever's coming out of this corner here, I'm going to defend him. So I'm not really worried about Naz Reid. Now, Naz Reid could obviously go towards the basket, but they've got that covered, it looks like. So he just waits for NAW to come off that screen, and he goes ahead and switches it. He jumps to the ball here, play some defense. Probably could have kept him sideline a little bit more. Not sure if they're trying to keep that sideline screen to keep him not away from the middle, but they do set up a ball screen here with Naz Reid. And one thing I do like, and I've actually seen this multiple times with LaMelo, it's something subtle, is the way that he places his hands to take away this pocket pass. Uh,
Hmm.
it looks silly the way that he holds his hand down there as NAW is coming off that screen from Naz Reid, but it's almost like, okay, if you're going to try to make this pocket pass, I'm going to deflect it, and then it ends up obviously in a miss there with Nick Richards making that rebound. So yeah, that's just something I've noticed. I don't know if it necessarily has ever led to a steal, but I like how he keeps his hands there just in case they do make that pass.
Yeah, I agree. It's a really good observation, honestly. I don't think many people would pick up on the fact that, the most common kind of like pick and roll play here, right, is just this little kind of push bounce pass to Naz Reid as he rolls to the basket, and LaMelo is doing his best to take that away. Um, I wouldn't say that Naz Reid exactly sets the most solid screen here. I mean, he barely makes contact with LaMelo as he's kind of trying to screen navigate. So you would want to see LaMelo kind of burst through that a little bit more and cut off some of that downhill. Or, I mean, the other option here, and granted, this may be more of kind of a structural defensive thing, but from a personnel standpoint, you would almost tell LaMelo to go under that. I mean, Nikhil Alexander Walker, I mean, he shoots an okay percentage from three, but like super, super low volume. I mean, I think for his career, he's shooting like one or two threes a game max. So you could go under this, but as LaMelo is trying to fight through it over top here, he does a decent job, but I think if you're going to nitpick here, it's like, hey, bend your knees, be an athlete, use your size, and like burst through this top of this screen, cut him off right there, so that Nick doesn't even have to come over. Like it's the old don't be a defender that needs help kind of thing. Um, but I mean, look, the high pick and roll ball screen is one of the most common plays in basketball for a reason. It's very hard to stop in today's NBA. So the fact that LaMelo at least trails, gets his hand in there, feeds the ball handler to Nick Richards at the basket, certainly not the worst outcome. And obviously, it's a it's a contested miss layup. So it's certainly not a terrible defensive possession. I think if I was to nitpick, I would say a little bit more urgency in getting through that screen, because it's not like he got smashed on the screen.
No, you're right. I didn't pick up on that the first time through where Naz Reid didn't set the best of screens and LaMelo found the space and he had to see the screen coming. So it's not like it was a surprise by any means. And he could have gotten over the top of it a little bit quicker. But ultimately, it does end in a missed layup. And I guess when you chalk it up to a positive defensive play,
Yeah, I mean a backup guard having to shoot a offhand contested layup against Nick Richards at the rim is certainly not the worst result in against an NBA offense.
all right, we've got the fourth clip coming up for you guys here. And we are now in the second quarter with the Hornets up 67-59. And it's
Mm.
a very similar looking play that we've seen before, just with a different outcome. What I like about this play, again, it may not have made a difference. But first off, there's a loose ball scramble here for those of you
Yep.
guys that are just watching the audio version, and Rozier picks it up in the backcourt, and LaMelo just kind of hangs back. He lets the Timberwolves get down court, and people are picking up players. Looks like Naz Reid is picking up DSJ, who's cutting towards the basket, and so there's like five defenders in the front court, and LaMelo's still around midcourt. And I feel like he's doing this to kind of create some confusion and kind of drop back a little bit, pretend like he is, kind of out of the picture here. And you got two players on the ball right here. I think that's Rozier.
It looks like LaMelo was almost pointing to DSJ, being like, he's open, throw him the ball.
Notice that. So he does get the pass here, and as Anthony Edwards turns around, he realizes that LaMelo's got range on him, and he's not
Yeah.
afraid to take these type of shots. There's been plenty of stats that have been floating out there that he's more than happy to take a 30-footer, and he catches it, he pumps, and then at this point, Anthony Edwards again, and Anthony Edwards is to me a solid defender, but this is the second play where LaMelo is able to get around him, able to lunge there, and he gets by. Now, this is a tough situation for Minnesota. You've got LaMelo leaving his feet early, and the same hang time that he had with the Mark Williams dump off, he shows here to the kick out corner three. Now, of all people, DSJ makes this. Like, this is not the player that you necessarily want to be in this position, but he's open. And the ability for LaMelo to kind of draw in players off these fake floaters, fake runners, and then just to dish it out at the last second is something that we saw in the earlier clip and something that we've seen from him, Lee, his whole career, just like leaving his feet and just kind of making that last second decision to help better, the offensive situation here.
Yeah, it's that elongated gather with the right hand kind of like slowly recoiling towards the basket that like freaks out the defenders. Interestingly enough, this is like a ultra small lineup here for the Hornets, right? I mean, it's Hayward, Oubre, DSJ, LaMelo, and Rozier on the floor right now for those who are listening on the audio version. So there really is I mean, DSJ is running in transition trying to get an open layup or dunk,
Is
but
that,
there
did you say Svi? That
Oh, is
might be
that
Svi.
Svi? I thought that. Oh, you're right. That is Svi. You're right. That's not Hayward. Huh, that's kind of funny. My boy Mikhailuk, long
Yep.
lost brother. Um, yeah, you're right. It's Svi. So Svi and Oubre are well, I guess LaMelo and LaMelo are the three biggest players on the floor um, for the Hornets. So there's no like traditional rim runner here, right? So it's almost like LaMelo's kind of diagnosing that too as he goes. And I mean, and DSJ again, like not the guy you would necessarily want shooting the open three, but he does kind of correctly float to the corner here as he realizes like, oh, like Naz Reid's not paying attention to
Right.
me at all. Um, and again, it's like it's that again, you mentioned the kind of the threat of LaMelo's jump shot that's become so important for him, which that like just that small thought in Anthony Edwards' head, just that little lunge he gets is enough for LaMelo just to kind of slither by him. And again, he's like waiting, like, okay, Naz Reid, what are you gonna do here? I'm attacking the basket with my right hand. I've got the advantage on Anthony Edwards. And okay, you step up, boom, throws it to the corner. DSJ knocks one in.
Yeah, it's a good play by LaMelo, and we'll let it play one more time through before we get to the fifth clip. And as we progress through this, there's actually no clips from the third quarter, and it actually we're gonna go straight to the fourth quarter with the fifth clip here. And this
Straight to
game
crunch
came
time.
down to the wire. It came down to the wire. The game that we had with Rozier in Minnesota, it was the opposite. It was a blowout. So I'm happy to do one where it's a little bit closer, and obviously clutch plays have to be made. And so the Hornets are actually down 2 points,
Mm-hmm.
102, 104, with 6 minutes left to go in this clip. And here it is, 5-out situation. 5-out situation, and we have a high pick and roll here with Nick Richards, and it looks like Naz Reid again defending this, and you've got LaMelo turning the corner. Now, with Nick Richards setting this high ball screen, Lee, the only option for him to do is to dive towards the
Yep.
rim. Like he's not going to be a threat for a pop situation, even though is he 100% from three in
Yeah,
his
I think he's still 1 for 1,
for
Richie.
one. So I guess you got to respect that, but so Nas knows that he can stay with LaMelo at this point because there's no real need for him to get back to Nick Richards. He's not a threat here. Now, I'm not really sure at this point what options does LaMelo have. Like, I guess he can try to find a cutting Nick Richards and try to get that ball over Nas Reed. That is definitely a possibility at this point. I don't think like Washington is running all that hard. He's not exactly in a ready position to catch the ball. Now he could drive here to his left, but he really hasn't picked up a ton of steam at this point. So what he decides to do is to take a step back, sidestep three, and late in the game, well, 6 minutes left in the game here. This is a clutch shot to me, even though
Huge shot.
yeah, by definition, NBA definition, it's not a clutch shot, but this step back three to put the Hornets up 105, 104. The biggest thing that I like about this, and maybe you were going to mention this, is the amount of space that he creates with this step back. Like right there with that right foot, and then just, yeah, there's so much space for the defender to kind of, gain ground here. It's just impossible to contest at that point.
Yeah, I mean, for those who can't see at home, I think that is that Jordan McLaurin trying to defend him up at the top. So for those who can't see at home, LaMelo comes off with his left hand ball screen from Nick Richards. Naz Reid kind of hedges halfway hedges, and McLaurin is like what?
McLaughlin.
McLaughlin, thank you. I knew I was messing that up, was just gonna keep rolling with it. McLaughlin is like working really hard to get back into the play. And this is one of those this is one of those Luka-esque, Steph Curry-esque um deceleration and and space creation is really like a integral part of functional NBA athleticism, and LaMelo has that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the most springy guy or most vertically athletic guy, but if you have deceleration, like that is a super important part of NBA athleticism, which I think goes overlooked and is underrated by a lot of NBA viewers. So LaMelo creates like 6 feet of space with just a simple deceleration And I mean, these type of shots have kind of become, some of his calling card. The one thing he does really nicely here, which is something for like young basketball players to pay attention to, is LaMelo creates the space with the deceleration and he is stepping back, but he gathers his weight to be balanced again before he shoots. So even though he's shooting a step back three, he is not fading away from the basket when he releases the basketball. Like, if anything, he's almost leaning forward a little bit. So he's got his momentum going back towards the hoop. He's got his shoulders squared for the hoop. When he lets the ball go, he may backpedal a little bit, but as the ball is released, which is what is important, he is super squared up and going straight up and down. And like you said, Richie, from like a situational standpoint, it's a pretty massive shot in the game. The Hornets go from being down 2 to up 1 with just over 6 minutes left in a close fourth quarter.
It's funny you mentioned the balance because it seems LaMelo doesn't mind taking shots that are off balance, but
Right.
in this particular clip, even after the step back, to your point, like he does gather himself and is more upright, more so than fading away. But yeah, this game gets close towards the end, and we've still got 3 more clips to show here. I'm gonna let this one play one time through, Lee, and I'm actually gonna let you lead off with your thoughts on
Sure.
this after it plays through. You need to watch it again, you can. At this point, it's under 4 minutes left to play. Hornets are down 2, down 107, 109, and get a tying basket here.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much kind of like looks like a little set action here with LaMelo curling kind of in the mid range of the lane. So Hayward has the ball in the right hand corner, kind of
Okay.
isolated. Mark Williams is setting like a little
Cross.
kind of, yeah, cross screen pin down. LaMelo is curling towards the right elbow, catches it with space. And at the same time, PJ, who obviously is a floor spacer and is a threat from three, at the same time, Mark Williams is rolling, diving at the rim. PJ is floating towards the top of the key for, that kind of 3-point straightaway shot that PJ can really knock down. LaMelo sees it but LaMelo catches the ball and is almost passing it already in the air, which is how it's kind of a little bit, at least a little bit of a set structure action. He knows what he's looking for here. So there's PJ. Mark is clearing things by diving hard. And Kyle Anderson, who's certainly not the most fleet of foot, is trying to close out to PJ. PJ takes advantage of that and just gives a quick little tiny little eye head fake and gets downhill for a little floater. So, to me, this is kind of a set action with the way LaMelo reacts here. But that being said, I think he's got Mark as well. So he's kind of diagnosing whether he wants to throw a little bounce pass or lob to Mark. But I think he makes the right decision because PJ's got all kinds of space.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure why I included this clip in the 8 that we did.
I don't think
But
it's a good like quick decision clip from LaMelo.
yeah, I think that's really what it comes down to is like we're so used to him making something out of nothing, but this looks very simple. And to your point, he knows exactly where the action is going, and he knows that PJ is an option here, and he's got plenty of room. I think this does go down as an assist for LaMelo, even though PJ still has work to do here. Like he doesn't take this three. He allows Anderson to kind of come out to him and really just drives by him without
Oh
really like
yeah,
any kind of pump fake
blows by him.
and hits this floater, which PJ has done so much better at this past season compared to his earlier seasons at hitting that floater. So I think I just like the way that he comes to a jump stop. He kind of weighs his option to maybe pass it to Mark Williams. He has the option to hit a floater, but ultimately he makes the simple play here, kicking it out to PJ, who is the most open player of the 5 on the court, and allows him to kind of go to work. And this gets the Hornets tied at 109 here late in the fourth quarter. And we'll go ahead and get to our second defensive play. And the Hornets at this point are up 1 with 2.5 minutes left in the game. And we've got LaMelo defending kind of in the corner here.
Yep.
He's in help side. And it ends in a missed 3. I don't know if his foot was on the line there, but regardless, a missed field goal to keep the Hornets up 1. So let's look at this real quick. We've got LaMelo in the corner defending Jaden McDaniels. It's a weak side corner. The ball's on the left side or is coming to the left side. You've got this like DHO action happening with Kyle Anderson and Edwards at the top of the key. There actually seems to be some confusion. Let me play it a little bit longer. I'm not really sure why both Rozier and PJ are guarding Ant
It's a
Edwards.
mistake. Yeah, they're making a mistake here.
Unless they think that they just want to get the ball out of his hands. But I don't know if this was planned or not. It's always hard to tell, after the fact. And Kyle Anderson just kind of settles in this pocket of space right here, right at the elbow. And so LaMelo, who's guarding McDaniels in the left corner, he sees this happening and he kind of creeps his way towards slow-mo at the elbow. He kind of gets a hand on him, lets him know, hey, I'm here. I'm here. And he knows that McDaniels is still in that corner and he's still able to, make his way out there and contest. He gets pretty close to, getting his hand on her, at least getting a hand in his face. And I think a lot of times when we talk about LaMelo or when you see LaMelo highlights, mostly bad. It's like the moves on defense where he takes like risky plays, where he tries to jump the passing lane on the weak side. This to me is a very calculated move. Like it's he creeps a little bit. He doesn't go too hard, and he just knows where his man is, and he comes back and is still able to contest. It's not one of those plays where Russell Westbrook sometimes just goes all over the place, doesn't really guard anyone, and is trying to make a play like too hard, like trying to make a steal, trying to make a play where it ends in a result for the Hornets. But to me, this was a very calculated move, and he knows that he can kind of recover back there to the corner, Lee.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is a great clip to kind of one thing I've always said about LaMelo is like, yes, he struggles at times on the ball. Yes, he's still a little, sleight of frame. Like there are defensive limitations with him still. But one of the things I've always said is like, and this goes to his defensive anticipation and ability to get in passing lanes and steals, like his instincts behoove him on the defensive end just like they do on the offensive end. Obviously, his instincts on the offensive end is what he's known for because of the passing and the vision, which is totally understandable. But like, and so on this clip for those listening on audio, basically Rozier and PJ Washington both end up on Anthony Edwards and like some sort of strange double team, and Kyle Anderson is completely wide open at the elbow. Now, like you said, Richie, there's a small chance maybe because it's so late in the game. Clifford said if Edwards catches it, automatic double team. Like that's not impossible, but I would say more likely here. And it's also similarly impossible to say who messed up here. If I had to guess, I would say PJ
Right.
because it looks like Rozier's pretty determined to like get through this screen to guard Edwards, and PJ doesn't switch. And it looks like Rozier is kind of expecting him to get back to Kyle Anderson, but without hearing what they're saying and without knowing kind of the inner workings of how Clifford might have wanted to guard this set in these type of situations, it's kind of technically impossible to know. But like you says, LaMelo just instinctively floats over to Kyle Anderson because he's like, Terry and PJ kind of screwed this up. Kyle Anderson's wide open. I know that my guy's probably a little bit of a bigger threat, so I'm just going to kind of stunt here, make sure Kyle Anderson knows I'm there, and then sprint my tail off to get back to contest the shot, which ends up, I think, being an air ball, it looks like. So this is actually really good stuff from LaMelo right here.
Yes, I would agree. All right, and yeah, it's a late game too, so the situation they need to stop at this point, and they got one. And we got one final clip to go here, and the Hornets are up 3 points with a minute and a half left in the game. We'll go get this queued up for you guys. And the Hornets up 114, 111. And then after that, make 117, 111. At this point, it was a dagger at that point. A
Yeah,
minute
huge
and
shot.
30. It's huge shot for him, and especially when he hit that one with 6 minutes left to play. This one's even bigger. He has the ball late in the shot clock, so there's 8 seconds left. So there's got to be a play that needs to be made. There's not many options at this point. He's trying to take Kyle Anderson off the dribble. You've got Hayward, who's originally was like in the middle of the court, and he kind of backpedals and spaces to the wing to give LaMelo more space to work. And once when LaMelo beats Anderson off the dribble, and maybe Ant doesn't need to help off here as much, but he does help off Hayward, and LaMelo makes a quick pass. He doesn't even gather. He doesn't even gather this ball. He pitches it with one hand, because that would have slowed him down if he, came to a jump stop and made the pass to Hayward. And now Hayward at this point, he's at an advantage because Anthony Edwards takes a bad angle, and this just collapses the defense at this point. You see like 3 or 4 Timberwolves just kind of converging here. And then obviously LaMelo does a good job of relocating outside the 3-point line for an uncontested make. And like I said, this was at this point, it was the dagger 117, 111 with a minute and a half to go, Lee.
Yeah, I mean, great stuff from Hayward here too. Like you said, LaMelo kind of instinctively respaces after he makes the initial pass, and Hayward's getting downhill. Definitely, probably not that LaMelo wouldn't have eventually scored on Kyle Anderson, but definitely probably a little bit of an overhelp from Edwards. But that's the type of things you have to take advantage of, and LaMelo sees it right away, right? Like you said, he doesn't even stop to gather. He just throws that right-handed, one-handed push pass to Hayward, who has an ability to get into the teeth of the defense. And you love to see LaMelo just like instinctively spacing back out, shooting a balanced, beautiful follow through, straight up and down 3-pointer, and just absolutely cans it. So, I mean, some huge plays by LaMelo down the stretch here, which and this is an unrelated rant, and I'm not going to actually rant, but I do think, LaMelo is being very undervalued right now as one of the best young players in the NBA. I mean, part of it is the fact I think that Halliburton and Edwards are both on this World Cup team, deservingly so. And they're both contributing. I mean, Edwards has been incredible. Halliburton was amazing off the bench against Germany the other night. I think if the Hornets don't have as poor of a season as they had this past season, LaMelo Ball would have been highly considered, for this World Cup team, because it's not the A guys, right? This is kind of the young rising star team led by, I mean, Paolo Banchero's on this team, Walker Kessler's on this team. There are a couple of vets, Josh Hart, Bobby Portis, guys like that. But like, I would have loved to have seen LaMelo on this World Cup team this summer. He's good enough. But it's just like the Hornets' lack of success, I think, probably hurt him in that regard. So all that to say, Richie, I've been critical of the Hornets in many ways. I think one thing that's happening right now is people are just somewhat rightfully so, because the Hornets are just not in the spotlight. But like, LaMelo is he's one of the best young players in the league. If he stays healthy, he's going to be dynamite this season. Like, you can book that.
And I think that's probably one of the reasons why he's not playing in the FIBA World Cup is the health too. Like
Yeah, fair point.
I'm sure the Hornets probably had a say, like if he was invited, hey, we're going to probably rehab him and make sure he's ready to go for the start of the season. But
It's a good
yeah,
point.
I do think that the combination of him playing for the Hornets and playing for a team like that, where there's not as much notoriety surrounding him, but also the health too. I'd rather have him healthy come October than
100%.
so. This was fun, Lee. I like look back on those clips, and the clip one was my favorite because of all the movement. I like the step back as well, but I just like all the plays that he made down the stretch in this game. Clutch plays, whether they were passes, easy, simple passes, or making that clutch 3 late in the game. So hopefully you enjoyed this, Lee.
Oh, this is awesome, man. Love these. Let's do it again.